welcome back. In this part, we are going to be learning about blood vessels of the kidney, specifically arteries and veins. So the arterial blood flow of the kidney starts from the abdominal aorta, and each kidney has one or more renal arteries. So as you see on this cadaver picture, there's 2 renal arteries on the left kidney, and it's actually not uncommon to have multiple renal arteries and to have the renal artery branch before it actually enters through the hilum of the kidney. So I am going to be showing you this view and this little pathway for part of it so you can figure out where we are, but let me explain it to you first. So looking at the pathway, we're starting the aorta. So this is the arterial blood flow. We're going to be going down here on the left side. This part down here in black at the bottom is going to be a separate recording because that's arterioles and capillaries. And then we have the venous blood flow going from small blood vessels and ending up at the inferior vena cava. So the reason why we're doing it in this order, because this is the path of blood flow. So first we start with the renal artery entering the kidney at the hilum. The renal artery in the medulla is going to branch right around the renal pelvis, and that branch is known as a segmental artery. The segmental artery will continue in the medulla until it gets to a renal column. In the renal column, it will have a name change and now is called an interlobar artery, meaning between lobes. I guess the lobes are the pyramids. The name to me doesn't make any sense. It's just what it's called, the interlobar artery, and they are located in the renal column. Now look and see what that interlobar artery does. As it gets to the junction of the medulla with the cortex, it will branch and will go across the external surface or the superficial surface of a renal pyramid. And so you end up with this artery going right across the junction between the outer cortex and the inner medulla. And this blood vessel is known as the arcuate artery because it's kind of in an arc, forming this arch across the top of each of the renal pyramids. All right. And then extending outward from the arcuate artery, kind of like the rays of the sun, are arteries in the renal cortex known as cortical radiate arteries. So these are traveling from the arcuate arteries and aiming outward towards the renal capsule. Cortical radiate arteries. Now, yes, there's another name for them, but this is the name I'm going to stick with because the other name is very similar to a name of an artery we already had, and that's how students get confused. All right. From the cortical radiate artery, we would go to arterioles and capillaries, and they're going to be a different video. So if the cortical radiate arteries are draining blood into the cortex, then it makes sense that cortical radiate veins would be in the renal cortex, and they would drain from the renal capsule towards the renal medulla. And then we would see an arcuate vein right next to the arcuate artery. So just going over the superficial portion of the renal pyramid. After that, the arcuate veins join together and they will travel through the renal columns in the renal medulla, and they are called interlobar veins. So the interlobar veins right next to the interlobar artery, the arcuate veins right next to the arcuate artery, the cortical radiate veins right next to the cortical radiate artery. So everything makes sense until you get down to the renal pelvis, where it looks like you should have segmental veins right next to segmental arteries, but for some reason that step is skipped. There are no such things as segmental veins. And so all these interlobar veins kind of coalesce through the renal medulla and eventually will form the renal vein at the renal hilum. And so the renal vein then dumps into the inferior vena cava. So on the right side, it is quite direct. It's like an inch to the inferior vena cava because the inferior vena cava is to the right of the abdominal aorta. Whereas on the left side, this is the only vein that crosses anterior to the abdominal aorta, and it crosses just below the superior mesenteric artery, right there and there. And with that, we are done with the arteries and the veins of the kidneys. And so I will see you shortly to talk about those arterioles and capillaries. Thank you.